Welcome back to the Krypton Report. This is a special edition episode. What we're going to be talking about today is the music of Super. What I mean is, throughout all time, there's always been a distinctive theme, tone, just sound for each one of the heroes. Now, I did put this up, and I'll put it up again on the website, so if you want to listen to the songs yourself, because we won't be able to play the songs in the podcast, I'm not sure how the whole copyright thing and all that works. So what we'll do is we'll tell you what we're listening to, we'll cut out, and then we'll come back and discuss it. Now, with me today is my longtime best friend, college roommate, bandmate, Mr. Devin Scarth. Welcome, Devin.
How's it going?
Going well, man. Now, Devin is in, what would you be your title? Business owner, engineer, producer?
Yeah, business owner, recording engineer, producer for Copper Fox Recordings and Music. So,
which is based out of Cincinnati, which Devin and I used to play in a band together. And my wife, as you all know, Jania, who's on here, she is working on recording one of her songs with Devin right now that'll be up, and we'll put the links up once it's finished. They're working on polishing and getting it finished. Mm-hmm. So you'll get a chance to hear what his masterful work is. And I don't just say that because he's my best friend. The man's got skills. We recorded some songs in the house ourselves with just GarageBand, and from what he did, that was 5 years ago, to what he can do now is amazing. But
let's get the mushy stuff over with and get to Superman.
And Devin is also a big Green Lantern fan, so he is the Green Lantern to my Superman. Now, Devin, Which Green Lantern is your favorite?
I first got on with Hal Jordan. I do like Kyle Rayner a lot as well.
I see he was a lot like Kyle Rayner.
Yeah. But I like Hal Jordan, but it depends on the Hal Jordan, because sometimes they make him a jerk, and it's not my favorite. They make him too much like Guy Gardner. There's already a Guy Gardner. There's already the asshole of the Green Lantern universe.
We don't need two of them.
We don't need two. No. With all the different things, they've got a planet Green Lantern. They've got Kilowog. They don't need two assholes. They don't.
I bet one of the aliens does have two. But anyways, moving on. So, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the first is the theme from The Adventures of Superman that was on the George Reeves show. So like I said, go ahead and pause this now, listen to it. There's the links on the website, and then we'll be back in just a moment. And we are back. Now, we listened to the 1950s The Adventures of Superman theme with George Reeves. Devin, what's your thoughts, just in general?
Yeah, it's funny. I just asked Tyler if that was from the radio program or if it was from the George Reeves show, because I wasn't sure at first, because it sounds so much like the radio show trying to paint the picture of Superman, which is the visual medium of comic books, and making it just completely auditory.
And what I feel like is, and I should have busted that, we should look it up, but I feel like is from the radio show. They pulled it for the TV series, and then I believe they used it for the Max Fleischer cartoons as well. That same, it's
a very similar fanfare to the Max Fleischer. Yeah,
I just love that. And something we're going to see repeated is kind of that similar tone and sound of the dun da dun, like you heard it in the background.
Yeah, I wish that they do a re-recorded version of it, because the recording quality, it kind of, and this is where I'm going to sound like a douche. There's a 1921, I think, silent film called Metropolis.
Yep.
Which is a gorgeous film, and if you've ever watched Blade Runner or anything like that, Star Wars, there's so many things that take notes from this.
And I think Metropolis is still on Netflix.
It may be, but a couple years ago, they found there was portions of it missing, and they've been piecing it together. But a few years ago, they did a revised version of it, and they re-recorded the original score. They found the original score with title card notes on it as to when the title cards are supposed to come up and things like that. And you just hear how gorgeous the music is that you really wouldn't appreciate in a recorded version from 1921 because of the quality. I wish they would do that with that, because there's a lot of texture to that.
There is, and I really believe it. Not trying to get too far ahead, but as we see, there's common, I guess the term would be motifs that repeat in style between each one of these, but they're each distinctive. And like you said, the recording quality is always such an important part of the recording process to have everlasting music. And I mean, this kind of set the stage and the idea, the sound of Superman. Like you can talk about the radio show, like what you see this, you watch this show, and then when you go and you read the comic, you're going to hear that sound in the back. And it set the stage. Now, there's not a whole lot to say about this one because, one thing that's cool but also kind of kills it is, like you said, you have that over narrator, like a radio show, describing to you and building it up. And later we'll get into the others. Well, we won't have that.
But at the same time, who that even has a cursory knowledge of Superman doesn't know able to leap tall buildings in a single bound? Up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. I mean, it's almost become a joke, but you think of this is 60 years old, probably older because it came from the radio show. How commonplace and how everyone knows that, just like everyone knows Superman.
And I want to give a shout out to the radio show. If you do not know, the radio show was the first one. They changed the name to The Daily Planet. Mm-hmm. And they also birthed Jimmy Olsen.
Yep.
And they also birthed the term kryptonite.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And it was also the first one to do the voice change.
Yeah, Bud Collier.
This needs a job for Superman. He
was the first one to do the idea of, and I can't do it, but Superman would be higher. Clark would be higher. And then drop it for Superman.
And they did this great job of differentiating between the two, which physically, like, again, jumping forward a little bit, I think the best person to do that was Chris Reeves.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like...
Oh, Mr. White. Hey, how you doing?
He just looks like a completely different person.
And if you really want that, the best is watch the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, the screen footage that's in the film of where she supposedly shoots him to see that transformation.
Yeah.
But speaking of Chris Reeves...
Is that where we're going next?
That's where we're going next. So... pull it up online, and here we go. All right, we are back. I'll tell you this right off the bat. John Williams is the man that scored my childhood, and that song is the definition of icon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's John Williams, so you could spend not just one episode of a podcast, but an entire podcast about John Williams' scores and themes and childhood from Star Wars to now. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the Home Alone, like you just think, hold on, all this family comedy, but the amazement of the music that he put into those films, that's a whole nother podcast.
If you take out the nostalgia element, Hook is not a good movie. And I say take out the nostalgia because nostalgia-wise, I love that movie.
Yeah,
but if you take that out, it is not a good movie. But the theme from Hook is fantastic.
Hook, I have my own memories of Hook because it was one of the first movies my dad took just me and him in the evening to go see. Mm-hmm. I remember my brother staying at home with my mom and me and dad going. But anything Williams does is amazing.
Yeah.
So that song, I mean, the way it starts with
first off, it has so much more dynamics. It really builds, and I think that it kind of plays with the whole Clark Kent Superman, which, as I said before, Chris Reeves does the best. So you have the dynamic range, which kind of parallels the range in the meek Clark Kent, and then when it really kicks in for that fanfare, that is Superman. That is Superman saving Lois Lane. That is the "you've got me, who's got you" moment of the theme.
I mean, when it hits that, like, I don't care who you are, as a man, you just stand up with your head a little higher. And it just, like, it empowers you. Like, it's the song, like, if you're trying to lift something and you just are losing it, you just think of that and you're just like, I can do this! Like, you just feel the power. And one thing is, it is a march. Mm-hmm. And, if we want to compare it, like, with Batman, the Elfman march, like, it's just so, I think because they do these type of marches, they're iconic and stay with us. And as we get farther along, in the newer music, they lose that march element.
They lose the, what they would call a simple melody. Mm-hmm. So simple melody, think the Beatles, that's the thing that gets stuck in your head. Complex melody is like Beethoven. There's still a melody there, but it's more complicated. It's not as easy to, like, everybody may know the first 5 seconds of a Beethoven piece, mm-hmm. but go a minute in, go into the second movement, mm-hmm. people don't know that as well.
It's true.
There were march elements in the first one, which, knowing John Williams' love for old serials and things like that, a la Indiana Jones,
Yep.
a la Star Wars basically being Buck Rogers, with the theme. You can definitely see it.
And, listening to these side by side, it's amazing because I feel like Williams built off of that original theme to do something in the same area of sound. And then from this is like the definitive, no holds bar Superman sound. Like, if you could take this and you could put it with any iteration of Superman, and it still has that same feel and it fits. And everything I think after this, like there's no theme that we'll get into.
But I don't think you could put that theme right on him snapping Zod's neck.
Oh, you could. Let's not forget, he did throw Zod into an endless abyss pit after he broke his hand.
Yeah.
It wasn't as brutal, but he did blatantly kill General Zod in Superman 2.
That's true.
Everyone forgets this.
Yes, Sam.
Okay? Boom. Breaks his hand and throws him. It's a great scene. But now, just as an honorable mention, when they did Superman Returns, they had access to Williams' original score, and they re-recorded the theme. John Ottman conducted it. And it's cool to hear just because of, like we talked about, more modern recording techniques, and just cleaner sound. And that version starts differently because it starts with, like, the second part. It doesn't have that high intro. It starts with the dum-dum, dum-dum-dum-dum, dum-dum-dum-dum.
Because it was the 2000s and Superman had to be more moody.
Yeah, but yet they gave him a brighter costume and the most hideous rubber boots ever captured on. I don't know what it is with Superman and boots. We talked about this in our costume episode. But Superman Returns and the Tyler Hoechlin Superman are battling for worst boots. I'd almost prefer a pair of red Converse. Here I come to Pacific.
So basically, you want New 52 Superman, Action Comics #1, New 52, and he just has the Superman T-shirt, which apparently you could buy at Walmart in the DC universe, even though Superman didn't exist yet.
I saw the coolest cosplay. That was like the best Superman cosplay I ever saw. Just some dude with brown work boots, farm jeans with a patch, and a Superman T-shirt, and a tied red cape.
If it works, you know what? I bet he's infinitely more comfortable than anyone else in a Superman cosplay.
My cosplay I came up with for the Blur from Smallville: black T-shirt, black trench coat, and pants with a white S painted on it. Awesome.
And even if you don't get the white S painted properly, like if you smudge it, well, it's just part of the blur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I should point out for people that are listening, I'm looking over at Tyler, and right behind his head is a giant Superman emblem on the wall.
To be fair, it would be kind of hard in this room not to have a Superman emblem behind me.
That's true. We have, let's see, Chris Reeves,
Tom
Welling, Henry Cavill, and then, of course, Tyler's own son in a Superman costume.
Yep, Solo's in his Superman pajamas.
Yes.
We have it all here. That's how we do here in the Fortress of Awesomeness.
But yeah, the John Williams theme, I feel like it not only set the standard for Superman themes, but for superhero themes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't remember the name of the composer. I think it's Chris Drake, who did a lot of the DC animated films.
Yes.
Like the Dark Knight Returns one, which was a fantastic score if you haven't heard it. The score stands on its own from the movie.
He did the Wonder Woman.
The Wonder Woman one, which...
It may be Under the Red Hood. He did a lot of them.
He did a lot of them, yeah, for a while there. But I remember in an interview with him where he made the comment about, the Superman theme says Superman.
Yes.
Superman. It says it. So he tried to get the phonetics of all the different names. So, like in Wonder Woman, he tries to get the phrases Wonder Woman with the notes and the timing.
I need to re-listen to that. I need to rewatch that movie. It's a good movie. It definitely got underappreciated when it was released.
I think it'll get some more love now that the Wonder Woman live action movie is going to be coming out.
Yeah, I think DC should definitely push with marketing and tie-in promotions to re-show that. But we digress. So now we are going to go on to the next Sound of Super. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more fun. For those you're listening to, you're like, well, what's next? Well, what's next is that little forgotten TV series that we forget from the late 80s and early 90s, The Adventures of Superboy. I know, we've talked about it before. It's hard to watch, but I will get through it, and we will talk about it more. So hold on, here goes the adventures of Superboy. And we're back. Devin, let me ask you this. Did you even know that Superboy, the TV series, existed?
I think I did. I think I may have repressed it. For anyone who was not able to listen to that, just imagine the worst elements of the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie and the failed Justice League pilot.
Oh, God, yes.
Had a baby that they left at the fire station in the 80s.
First of all, when it comes to Superboy, one, I don't know how I'd feel about being called Superboy when I'm in college. Okay, when I think of Superboy, I think of, 10, 12, 11, into a little bit of a teenager. I don't want to be called Superboy. No, the thing is, I know they had the rights to Superman and all that, so I don't know why, because it's the same producers who did the Chris Reeves films. Why they did Superboy.
When was the last Chris Reeves?
87.
And when was this show out?
It started like 89. It was, okay, because it came out after the last Chris movie, before Lois and Clark. Lois and Clark was 93, so it was like 89, 90, 91, because it went for 4 seasons.
Okay.
In the first season, it was Superboy, the first season.
Okay.
It had John Haynes Newton as Superboy. But then he left, they changed a little bit of the production. It became The Adventures of Superboy in season 3. But seasons 2 through 4 were Gerard Christopher.
Wait, how many seasons did they do?
4.
Firefly got 1 season.
Firefly got 1 season.
And this could do 4.
This wasn't on Fox.
Yeah, apparently.
So, yeah. I think that's going to be the biggest butt of every joke, or there's a show on that you really can't stand how it's so horrible. Like, and Firefly got 1 season?
I'm serious. The video we just watched that has the theme is also the opening, so there's some scenes from the show. I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen it, but I'm willing to bet pretty good money that the Superman porn parody has better quality and better production value than the Superboy show.
Yeah.
And he's not a Superboy, he's definitely a Superman.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's weird because I remember there was a lawsuit that they had against him for using Superboy because they filed it as if Superboy was a different character than Superman. Because it's the incarnation of when the stories when Clark was young as a boy. It was a whole mess with the whole Schuster and Siegel Foundation. But back to the theme.
Yeah, to wrap it up, the theme, it's very synth, but
very 80s.
Very 80s. If you want a Superboy show, just watch Smallville.
Yeah, that's the best way to do a quote-unquote Superboy.
Or watch the first half hour of the first Superman movie.
Or just the beginning of the first episode of the Superman cartoon animated series. But basically, this sounds like it's the dun-da-da portion of the theme without all the instruments in it. They just stripped everything down to a synth. It feels like that kid who just learned how to play his first Casio keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, as far as looking at it strictly musically, the orchestration is very stripped down. They clearly couldn't afford to pay as many musicians for when they had actual musicians in the room. Otherwise, they tried to fill it in with synth instruments, which I'm sure we all know in the 80s, they have a distinct sound that doesn't entirely replicate the instruments they're trying to.
3 words. Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite, I'll be honest with you. I listened to the George Reeves before this, yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is, it's rough. But it was the 80s. A lot of things were rough. So now on our list of magical powers of Super. And it's also neat, as we do this, just the style of music as it changes.
It is. The core principles, the fanfare, the march, all kind of stay the same. But it does really change depending on the time frame in which it comes from. The only one I so far I feel is truly timeless is the John Williams fanfare.
And I agree. But here we go with Lois and Clark. All right, so we just listened to the theme for Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman from 1993. And now one thing, Devin, we talked about before on the show was I feel like Superman exists better on TV than he does in film. And I say that because there's been a lot more iterations of Superman on television that have been successful than there has been movie-wise compared to Batman.
Well, I mean, Superman, with any of these characters, the television fits closer to comic books. It allows you to dive deeper into the characters and the story and actually give them a little bit more life. And, movies, especially comic book movies, have really always been about the visuals. Yeah. I mean, you go back to the Chris Reeves, You Will Believe a Man Can Fly. The story was fantastic, but I think that has a lot to do with the casting, the writing, and the fact that it had Richard Donner directing.
Tom Mankiewicz, script doctoring and writing. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, the idea of the biblical epic story. Mm-hmm. But, we talked about, you've had few Batman live-action TV series, but multiple incarnations of Batman on film that have just done well compared to Superman.
I still feel like none of them on film have really cracked Batman, though.
No, I think we'll get Batman sidetracked here, but
yeah,
I feel like the detective aspect gets lost a lot.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
It just becomes like the crime fighter says there's more to his character. But I feel like
they get the Zorro aspect, but they don't get the Sherlock Holmes aspect.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. But back to the Lois and Clark theme. Mm-hmm. I actually really like this theme. I feel like it's musically, I feel like it could be almost as timeless as Williams. It's not as good, but it is a television budget in recording. So you talked about having less instruments, less musicians, but I feel like the motifs are there that echo the Williams theme. Yeah,
they're smart about it. They use the lack of budget, and so the smaller amount of instruments to their favor. So whereas the John Williams is almost the wall of sound, it's this really full, lush. There are a lot of the downside to when you do something like that is you can't always do as many things, undercurrents, things like that. So the themes are usually pretty big and deliberate. Whereas with this TV one, with Lois and Clark, you have the main theme, but you have a lot going on underneath of it because you have fewer instruments that are able to do those things. And you can actually hear the texture coming up from the woodwinds and things like that.
And I think it paints a beautiful picture. And it does hit a lot of that. I mean, it is definitely shorter because it's used more.
It's the credits.
Yeah. And you'll hear it at the beginning, the end, and sprinkled in the series. But it does have that similar feel. When you hear it, you know Superman's coming.
Yeah. On a total aside, I haven't watched Lois and Clark in years. That's pure nostalgia because my three introductions to Superman, the regular Superman, the original Superman movie, huge one. But on a regular basis, I was a kid when Lois and Clark was out. And then, of course, the cartoon Superman.
And that's what we're getting to next. The theme by Shirley Walker, the animated Superman. So go ahead, pause it, listen to it, and come back to us. All right. Now, Shirley Walker is extremely underrated. She did the music for the Batman the Animated Series, Mask of the Phantasm, all this DC TV universe, as well as more things, and it's just beautiful music.
Yeah, and the what she was able to do, the arrangements she was able to do with the budget she had and the timetable she had. You think about most of Batman the Animated Series, and I think most of Superman the Animated Series was her.
Yes.
And they were just gorgeous themes, but this one, it's probably my favorite outside of the John Williams Superman theme, just because it's so well done. There's the little flourishes underneath. I think it stands on its own next to the John Williams theme and still hearkening back to the original George Reeves theme.
Yes.
It's gorgeous piece of music, and I think it's great because she did the Batman animated series, but she wasn't able to do the theme because they used. I think she did the arrangement.
Yeah, it was a rearrangement of Danny Elfman.
Of Danny Elfman's theme. So this one, she actually got to do it herself, and she hit it out of the park. She really did. She's very underrated.
I love, like you said with Williams, is it says Superman. Mm-hmm. But this one sounds like it says Superman, Superman, here comes the Superman. Like, it just speaks to you. I mean, you could put this music into a film with Chris in it, and it would still have the same.
You could put this with Chris Reeves. You could take this and put it over the old Max Fleischer, which I know is what they were kind of going with aesthetically for the cartoon.
Yes.
But it's just so purely Superman.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's just another one of those hold your head up high. And you listen to it as music, you don't even think about the cartoon, you're there. So, with that, we're going to keep moving forward. We do want you as fans to hit us up, but the next one is where we take a big departure, and we're going to listen to what Hans Zimmer did for Man of Steel. Alright, we're back. Now, I knew that when we went into the Hans Zimmer Man of Steel theme, it was going to be the biggest change. And I feel like it had to be. If you're going to reinvent the character, everyone was so afraid, I think, to get away from the Williamized sound. Like we've talked about, each thing has a callback to it. And Smallville used bits of the Williams score here and there to pad out, to build the Superman idea. They never had any of their own kind of theme. That when this came out, it was such a departure from that sound. So what do you think, Dev? Just
I have a love-hate relationship with Hans Zimmer. Musically, I think it's very good. There are elements I hear in a lot of his previous work. Specifically, the beginning build-up reminds me of the piece he did called Aurora, which was put out after the shooting in Aurora, Colorado. They released that, and all the funds from that went to the families and things like that. Musically, I like the piece of music. It doesn't seem to me to be a Superman theme. It starts to turn the corner about halfway in, but that's too long for me for a theme. The first half of it especially seems like more of a theme for
Clark Kent?
Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
That's what I think of.
I feel like it's more of that. Because Man of Steel, Genia points out, is like Kal-El's film. Because it's all about... The Man of Steel, Genia pointed out, it's all about Kal-El's film. He's not really the Clark Kent that we would know to create, nor is he Superman. He's somewhere in between, and it's kind of like that. The song feels like it's rising from something to become the theme, to become something. Like you said, it departs from that march. It's just sound like those. It's like two notes, like dum dum.
Yeah, and Hans Zimmer, he does lots of interesting things. I remember seeing an interview with him back when he did The Dark Knight, that some of the phrases he did was entirely based around the chords D and C for DC Comics.
Nice. And I always like when Hans Zimmer pairs with somebody to do stuff, because I feel like it's like the original Batman Begins. He partnered
With Howard, wasn't it?
Howard. Yeah. So
it's the same thing. He did Pirates of the Caribbean. The first one has fantastic themes. One of the only ones, and I believe it's a standalone from him, I may be incorrect on this, is he did The Last Samurai, Edward Zwick film.
It's such a good movie.
It's a good movie, not for everybody, but
It's true.
the music in it is fantastic, and I love that score. It's a personal favorite of mine. One thing I will say with this one is we talked about the fidelity of the recordings and how that changes.
Yes.
Hans Zimmer almost takes a 3-dimensional look at recording for him. If you remember when The Dark Knight, or the big one's Inception, with the big blasting horns, you feel that bass, especially in the theater. Yes. And there are a lot of undertones that help to build it so that when it really kicks in, it's using the volume and the bass and the actual movement of the air coming from the speakers to transfer to you. It's not purely an auditory experience.
And I will agree with that. I've never thought of that before, but the 3-dimension of sound, I can see that, because I feel like with his compositions, a lot of them you almost need the visual to enjoy the music with, because it stands on its own, but at the same time, it's more atmospheric, so it really works with the pictures in which you're watching it.
Which is exactly the opposite of, say, a John Williams. I remember George Lucas saying that he felt that the Star Wars movies, you could show them with just the score and no dialogue, and you would still know what was going on because the music told the story.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Whereas, this is more mood pieces. And it's also, I think you can, you may call me crazy, I think you can rightfully say that Hans Zimmer has had as much of an impact on the scoring of films in his time now as John Williams did when he first came out.
Oh, I believe.
Because so many things have gone, when you have a Tyler Bates who comes out, he's very much a Hans Zimmer kind of vibe.
What's the other guy? I know Junkie XL, because that he's working with him kind of like this mentorship esque. But was it Junkie that did the Transformers movies?
I think so.
I think it was, because
I'll be honest, I don't really go to the Transformers movies for lots of great anything.
you don't go for great explosions and over the budget acting.
Yeah, if I want a good Michael Bay film, I'll watch The Rock.
Oh, I was like, you don't want to see what's going on with top-notch CGI?
If I want top-notch CGI, I'll just go watch a Pixar movie and get a story along with it.
No. Anyways, I like this piece of music. Like I say, it's odd to think about, but I feel like it has this certain coming-of-ageness to it in what the story is. So maybe as a theme, not so much, but just as a piece of music.
Because as a piece of music, I love it. It's as the Superman theme. It just doesn't work for me. But I also think that Hans Zimmer really doesn't do themes.
He does more of a mood feeling.
That's why if you notice with a lot of like the Nolan movies that he's done and things like that, there are no opening credits. Dark Knight, it doesn't show the Dark Knight logo until the cut.
Yeah.
At the end of the credits.
It does. All three of them do like this musical intro with the bat symbol in some shape into the movie. And like I said, it's more about the feeling. There's not a Batman theme, there's just certain sounds when Batman shows up, like the dun, 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 like, and it's great when you're watching the movie, but then when you're like, I want to hear the Batman theme, and you go to try to find it like on the CD, you're like, I guess this is it?
Now, one other comment I will make. I think that this theme, as it is called, and I'll consider it a theme for this, it fits the movie. It fits Zack Snyder's representation of Superman, and as he was portrayed in the movie. I feel it fits much more than if you put the John Williams score or variation thereof in here.
Oh, I agree.
Because those are more major keys. This movie is definitely in a minor key.
Yes.
It's just the feel of it is much more muted. Just look at the color palette.
We talked about that in my blog about cinematography, the way that Man of Steel was shot, portrayed, and then the way it was portrayed in BVS, just the colorization. You're absolutely right. And what's interesting is this is the first time, other than Legends of the Guardians, the Owls of Gold, live action that Snyder's worked with a different composer other than Tyler Bates. All of his other films were scored by Bates.
Which I would consider Tyler Bates in the school of Hans Zimmer.
And I would as well. So moving on, we're done with our Superman portion. We have 2 more to go. We're going to listen to the theme of the very difficult to watch, what we did it last year, Supergirl film. So hold on. And we're back. Now, the Supergirl movie theme, it's good. The music is beautiful. And it was conducted by Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith, a very talented composer. It's very good music. It's clear that they had the budget for it. I have not seen the Supergirl movie.
I'm going to strap him to a chair and make him watch it like Clockwork Orange style.
From the description I'm getting from Tyler, it makes it sound like one of those instances where a whole lot of very talented people were involved in making a movie with a decent budget, and it just didn't work.
That is a very polite way of putting it.
The music sounds great. I really do like it. It's the same kind of thing with the John Williams going back to the 50s, where it's very much a fanfare, big, brash. It is almost, I might get in trouble for saying this, it almost seems like a slightly more feminine version of the John Williams theme.
I don't think you'd be in trouble for saying I think it fits fine to represent the other half.
Yeah, it's still very, very strong, which, as it should be for a character like Supergirl. But it definitely, it's not, if the Superman, and I don't want to say that this is exactly what it's doing, but if John Williams Superman is saying Superman, This is saying Supergirl.
It's sweeter. Mm-hmm. But listen for yourself. Now, the last one, we don't know, as of the organization of this episode, we're not sure if there's going to be any kind of theme that is written to represent Superman in the Supergirl TV series. So what we're going to listen to is just the Supergirl theme, and we'll update this if there is a Superman theme that comes along later. And we are back. Now, what was it that you told me as we started listening to that?
I have not heard this one.
See, he had not heard that.
I have not heard that one. I have the Supergirl show ready to watch. I have not dug into it yet. I am a Flash TV show fan, and I watched the first season of Arrow, but I haven't come back to it yet, so
it's
I'm
sad
a bad nerd.
That many people have the same opinion. But let's just give a quick shout to Blake Neely. That is a busy man.
Yeah.
He does
Flash,
Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, and gives each one of them their own distinctive sounds.
Very much. And, I mean, I really like the music for that. It's very much a Superman, Supergirl theme, but it definitely has its own identity.
Yeah, and I think, the way that you said, like, if John Williams is saying Superman and Goldsmith is Supergirl, I feel like this is gender neutral.
A little bit, yeah. It's very well done. I think it's similar to the Lois and Clark, is where it really takes advantage of the limitations on the instruments.
The less is more.
Yeah, and it really lets you do a little bit more delicate movements.
I mean, it starts, if you listen to just the piece of music by itself, it starts very soft, almost like a sense of discovery into, like, the surprise. And it's that perfect feel that you could just see her, like, get ready to take off and start flying.
Yeah, there's of the music we've listened to thus far, this is the first piece, I think, that I really was wanting to continue on and hear where it was going to go next. Either you have, like, the John Williams piece, which is very self-contained. Lois and Clark self-contained, the Superman Adventure self-contained. Or you have the pieces that seem to just kind of go on too long. Superboy, the original, once you get over the voiceover, it just seems to kind of be vamping for a little while there.
It's not going anywhere.
No, this one really is ebbing and flowing well. I really like the piece of music. I would love to hear more of that piece.
I have Blake Neely's themes from all the shows, but I also have the complete work of the Flash season 1 of his. Mm-hmm. It's really good. I mean, there is a great, there's a guy who does a podcast right here out of Columbus, Ohio, called Comic Book Central, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. He did an interview with Blake Neely. If you get a chance to listen to it, go download that and check it out, and then tweet at Comic Book Central that you heard it from us. But what's neat is Blake talks about he plays a sample of the Flash music, and he talks about what Flash is. Then he puts a sample of the Supergirl music, he talks about this. But then he says, no, hold on, let me do something, and he puts them together to represent, because it was the upcoming crossover episode, what it would sound like with Supergirl and the Flash together. And I mean, that, for music people, you just hear that, you're like, wow, like, the man has his realm. And I didn't know this, but when I listened to that interview, Blake Neely was the one that conducted and worked with Metallica for their S&M album.
Really?
Their Symphony in Metallica. Yeah, I didn't know that. And I was like, so he's been around for a while.
Yeah, he's been around for a little bit.
I can't remember everything. I feel bad. But
if the man could deal with Lars, more power to him.
So that is our episode on the sounds of Super. Shoot us your feedback. Now, Devin, do you want to give any kind of, let people know where they can find Copper Fox and everything?
Yeah, CopperFoxRecordings.com. Keep listening to Krypton Report. Keep giving Ty some love, because he needs all he can get. Mm-hmm. And just go be awesome to each other.
In the words of the great George Carlin from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, be excellent to each other and look up at the sky.